So yeah, a switch can come out of the blue. I don't know why I'm here now. Why am I here now? I don't know. Not anything that anyone ever expects to deal with in their life, to find that you're sharing a life with very angry other people who are also inhabiting your body and your brain. My name is Amber and we have dissociative identity disorder, also known as DID. DID is a disorder that's caused by childhood trauma. When we are young, we have different states, alternate states of consciousness. Usually between the ages of 6 and 9, these states unify into one cohesive sense of self. When trauma happens, we can start to build amnesia and dissociation between those selves. So for us, we lived to the age of 37 without knowing that we had DID, without any idea that we could even be many people within one body. So yeah, a switch can come out of the blue. I don't know why I'm here now. Why am I here now? I don't know. Just, who's talking? Just get out my face. You get out my face. It can be caused by a trigger. I guess this is the most obvious reason why someone would switch. So that trigger could be a negative trigger, which could have been from a trauma in our childhood. Mia, you're always with all the opinions. Tildy, I'm sorry that you haven't talked. Trigger can also be a positive thing. So an example would be a little seeing a soft toy in a shop. And quite often we will be halfway through telling a story when we switch. We don't realise we switch, we keep going. The mask is then on because the person who switched out hasn't realised that they've even switched out or identified who they are. And it's only when they talk about who they thought they were in third person that they realise they are not that person anymore. You know, who the hell am I if I'm not? I don't do that. Doubt and denial go hand in hand with DID. It is a covert disorder by its very nature. We're quite different, especially like Mia. I can't pretend to be Mia and Mia can't pretend to be me. Do you want to talk? Wait, so it's Mia. So when I first got out, I think I came out at 6, wasn't I? Yeah. I was 6 at first, and then I got a bit younger after I split from Mia, and then I aged up I went down to 4 for a while, and then I went to 7, and 7 was a really good age for me. I really liked 7, and because it is weird both being 7 and nearly 40, as you can imagine. It's like knowing all this stuff, having access to all these memories, knowing what it means. We've found healing in a lot of places. Poetry, Lego, there's something magic about those little bricks. Play. Music, when we were healing Baloo's trauma, that was like the worst one to heal, obviously, because that was the bad stuff from when we were so young. And when you're healing something that is like, don't switch. Tildy, go away. You idiot. There can be a whole load of dissociating. If you imagine you're sat in a car, but actually all of the control panels are behind that perspex, and it's like I want to be able to drive the car. There's the steering wheel, but I just can't reach it. I can't get to it. We are integrated, or quite integrated, meaning we have lowered our dissociative amnesias and barriers. We are aware of each other. We've spent a lot of time together, and we are used to being in the same place at the same time, so we function very blended. A common term for people with DID is we're a system. I guess that would be a system of parts. Isabel, she was our protector. Most systems will have some form of protector who gets triggered out, whether that is to keep the body safe, to keep everyone safe. There's often trauma holders. We have Baloo, Amber Louise. We had a lot of other young trauma holders who held just various different traumas from our childhood. Kai was a little persecutor. He was a persecutor is a role with his, within a system who inflicts harm upon the system. At first, this looks like it's bad. It seems like a strange and not useful role. But once you scratch the surface, you'll find that there's reasons for it. So Kai was responsible for intrusive thoughts for us. So I wish I was dead. He would think about self-harm a lot. And it was to try and help Baloo. If we end our life, then she is not in pain anymore. She cried inside my head for 36 years, we believe. And her pain was dissociated and amnesiac from me so that I was able to live our life without being impacted by that. In 2019, I remembered the trauma that caused our DID. I had learnt about a hands-on therapy called myofascial release, MFR, and it was whilst I was in America on a massage table with multiple therapists working on me that I remembered a trauma from when we were 2. It was CSA, child sexual abuse. Someone answered me in my head, and now that makes sense, knowing what we know now about us being us. And they gave me a name, and I then spoke to my mum and asked her if this man had ever had access to me, and she had gone out with him after my biological father had left him, before she got with my dad. To know that he did have access to me, which I didn't know until I knew what I'd done, I found Isabel in my head. I became aware of her late at night. I had a drink and I had a smoke, and we started communicating. I woke up the next morning and I knew that there had been this strange communication in my head. It was very, very difficult to communicate with Isabel at first. We found that writing was the best way. You can access different parts of your brain that we can't use while doing this. I had assumed she was an inner child because I hadn't heard of DID, in spite of doing a degree in psychology and health in my early 20s. I had told Ben, my husband, and my mum that I'd found an inner child who was an inner teenager, and she was very angry at the entire world and had a lot of problems and took control when I'd been drinking. It was on Christmas Eve that I suddenly felt like I had regressed, and I found Mia. At the time I thought I just suddenly became 6 years old. Again, after a few whiskies. And the next morning I got up and I was very grateful to realise that I was 38 again, and that I didn't feel like I was 6, and that wasn't going to be in my life forever. But I knew that Mia was present. I talked to a friend and told her about what was happening, and she said, "That's not inner children, that's DID." I said, "What's DID?" And she sent me a YouTube video about it, and the 4 of us sat and watched this YouTube video, and it was just a massive relief to suddenly have an explanation for what was happening. Without the context of DID, obviously we felt like we were going crazy, for want of better words. It felt like I was losing my mind, losing my grip on reality at times, losing it. It took a lot of effort to get a diagnosis. The idea that someone would make it up, someone would just be hurting themselves if they were doing this. It's so hard to get the help that there's no reason to do it for that kind of attention. It makes it so hard to exist. We are very, very isolated. We have lost most of our friends because, we're not who we were before. We aren't who we should be. It's hard. We only really leave the house to go to shops or to walk our dog. We've seen more people today coming down to do this than we have probably the rest of the year. So we also do live in a DID bubble where all of our friends have DID, and that is where we've found the most validation and support actually in our community, finding people. We started on Facebook, we found Facebook groups, and we've met some people who, a few of them we're still friends with today. And if it wasn't for that, for getting that validation, finding that in the community, it would have been a lot harder. The most important thing really is awareness. That is the first step. People understanding that this is how to approach someone, how to help someone who has switched, how to identify it, how to recognize it. We would love to see decent treatment pathways come to fruition, and for there to be the therapists out there who we so desperately need through the NHS to be helping those really vulnerable people who are falling through the net. But that's a long way off.